My son Austin is 8.
You have 3 minutes. Please address the board chair only, not individual members of our board or staff.
Okay. Good evening.
And if you could leave your mask on, that would be great as well.
Oh, they told us outside we can take them off when we speak.
Can we get clarification on that, Dr. Baker?
I just want to make sure we're on the
Chief
same page.
was someone guided?
The Long Beach School Safety, they just told me as I walked in that I could take my mask off.
Can you please put your mask on?
Do I have to?
It's a requirement.
Yes, we're indoors, so everyone has to wear a mask.
Okay.
And you'll keep your time, Chief? If we could just remind folks before they come in that they need to wear their mask indoors. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Dana.
All right. My name is Dana Tanner. My daughter is an 11. Her name's Brooklyn. She's going to be attending Rogers. My son Halston is 8. And she's going to be attending Prisk. He has autism and he's, sorry, this is bad. He's in the success program at Prisk. And I come to you with a couple questions. I want you to just nod, don't nod, but I want you to think about these things. Yes or no? Do you want our students and teachers to fail? Probably a no, right? Do you want these students to feel like they're capable of killing other humans because they're in the same room with them? Do you want these children to survive, or do you want them to thrive? Because I want my daughter and my son to thrive, and I want every other kid to thrive. I don't want them just surviving. Do you want these children, do you think masks help them thrive? Because I think that's the big debate here. My son has special needs. He had an IEP set up. If you're not familiar with special needs, if there's other parents around, you go in with the principal, the teachers, the speech therapist, the occupational therapist, the school counselor, and you collaborate together. And you set a plan for your child based on their well-being, their health, and what they're going to need to be successful and thrive in their school. We collaborated for my son. I collaborated with my daughter for her extra assistance that she needed for her ADHD. Why are we not doing that for these children with the parents on a case-by-case basis for what they need to be successful? Because we do that with everything else in school with them. I just have such a problem with that. And then our kids are not in school to survive. They're here to thrive, and we're here to teach them how to be developed and be successful in the world. From county supervisor meetings, school board meetings across the state, paragraphs of data have been presented with facts that attest to the collateral damage. And the collateral damage is so much greater to these children than just this small 0.006%. And that's my biggest concern here. I can state statistics, we all can. I can state research, we all can. We all have an argument with numbers. These numbers are so small that they would never even be considered in any other threat, in any other circumstance. I could simply continue to send my daughter who's 11 to school with a diaper because there's a 0.006% chance that she's gonna poop her pants. But I just don't see that happening, and it doesn't, the means don't justify the reasoning for it. And our kids are more likely not to wash their hands correctly and give each other salmonella than this virus. This is not just about getting through a pandemic. It's not just about getting by. It's about creating a foundation of strength for our youth to feel empowered and develop to take on the world and not be afraid of the world. We can't live like that. Our family units need to take responsibility for our families, our health, make sure we take care of our kids, we have good nutrition, we have good facilities, we make decisions that affect the health and livelihood of our children, and we should send them to school ready.
Thank you, Dana. So, Hi, Serena, just a reminder, you have 3 minutes. Please address your comments to the board chair and not to any individual member or staff.
Okay, thank you.
I come to you guys as a science teacher, and I'm bound to the next generation science standards. Those standards have science and engineering practices, and within them, number 7 states that we're to teach children argumentation through evidence. And so I have been doing nothing but research since this entire thing began, and I've been circumnavigating around all of the chaos, and so I would like to present to you the research. And I urge for you, as our leaders, to go to the health department and in the Los Angeles County and the Long Beach County and demand from them the evidence that tells us that masks stop the virus and that they help with this. And I would also like you to go and do the research, or demand of them the research that they do no harm to children. So now I'm going to present you with the evidence that I have that they do harm. You have all the board members, you have received a PowerPoint from me last night, and it is filled with research articles and tons and tons and tons of links. I encourage you to do that. And so this is what we call critical thinking. So in the education system, I'm going to encourage you to also do some critical thinking. First of all, masks do not work. You have a virus that is extremely small. It is a nanometer, and the cloth between the typical medical masks is a micrometer. And so these are 1/1000 to each other. And so what that means is if I wanted to stop mosquitoes coming in my backyard, I'm putting up a chain link fence. That's what it's equivalent to. So they do not work. They are petri dishes. So more people died in the Spanish flu from wearing masks, from bacterial pneumonia that formed in their lungs from wearing masks. So I will demonstrate to you that this is doing harm to our children. They're breathing in bacteria all day long, and it's causing them to be sick. All right, some of the other things that it causes is a lack of oxygen to the blood. And so I would encourage all the parents watching right now, I would encourage you to get an oxygen monitor. You can get them very cheap, hook them up to your child, and if this mask mandate goes into place, you can monitor their oxygen levels. If it goes below a certain level, it is dangerous for them, and that can be a potential lawsuit. And I would urge you, I do not like lawsuits in the school district. It takes money away from our children, and that's very upsetting to me. Some of the direct effects of lack of oxygen in kids, so this is called hypoxia, and some of the side effects would be headaches, which I know some people have already witnessed, people that have had masks on for a while, and if you're getting a headache, that is why. It's a lack of oxygen in your blood. Weakness, immune system.
Thank you, Serena. Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, let me just real quickly.
You only have 3 minutes, Serena.
Okay, and it can also do psychological damage to
Your
these
3
kids, and
minutes
our
are up.
English learners are going to
Thank
be
you, Serena. We heard you.
impacted
Your 3
greatly.
minutes are up.
Thank you.
I'm here today because I believe it shouldn't have to happen to you for it to matter to you. You shouldn't have to get infected with COVID to care about the safety of those more vulnerable. You shouldn't have to have a child with a learning or medical disability for you to care about equitable education options. Our children have handled the responsibilities and challenges of this pandemic better than so many of us adults. We owe it to them to implement all 5 safety protocols recommended by health experts for safe school reopening: masking, vaccination, ventilation, distancing, and testing. I am grateful to Long Beach Unified for implementing masking, vaccination, ventilation, and distancing. To that said, I ask that in an abundance of caution, you expand masking to outdoors when distancing cannot be maintained, especially for elementary schools where all students remain unvaccinated. I also ask that more than encouraging staff to distance students, you develop clear and defined distancing protocols, not only for indoors, but for outdoor spaces, for school-day activities, especially lunch where all students will be unmasked. The missing protocol is weekly testing. We need to implement weekly testing to protect the thousands of students under age 12, as well as our medically vulnerable staff and students.
Hi, Paul, so you have 3 minutes to address the board. Please direct your comments to the board chair and not to any individual member of the board or staff.
The comment is to everybody, to all the board members. My name is Carlos Ovalle, 7th District.
Sorry, excuse me, Carlos. James, we had Paul before Carlos.
Correct. He refused to wear a mask.
Okay. Sorry about that, Carlos. Yes.
Not a problem. I have a lot of friends and family who are frontline medical doctors, registered nurses, who get to see all sorts of unfortunate incidents. They get to hold people's hands as they die on a ventilator. A few years ago, my father passed away, intubated, not because of COVID, but for other reasons. And he died in my arms. It's a horrible thing to experience. Well, it's a horrible thing to see. I can't imagine what it would have been like to be in his shoes. There's no reason for anyone not to wear a mask. I have asthma. I ride my bicycle everywhere I go. I don't own a car. And as you can see, I wear a mask. And I'm vaccinated. There's no reason for everyone not to be vaccinated and with a mask for religious purposes or any other purpose. So I want to commend the Long Beach Unified School District for requiring staff to wear a mask and for getting vaccinated. I would encourage you to request that everyone get vaccinated. Getting tested in lieu of vaccination to me is not acceptable as a parent of LBUSD students. I have a daughter who is also an LBUSD teacher, a daughter-in-law, and a niece who are all LBUSD teachers. I am afraid for their safety and their health and safety, and so please don't listen to these anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers. Please push forward, and thank you.
On Monday, August 9th, the district sent employees an email from Jill stating that all staff will be required to provide proof of vaccination or have weekly COVID testing. Whether an employee is vaccinated is a private decision and is personal health information protected by HIPAA law. Providing that information to Long Beach Unified would not be appropriate. For one thing, Long Beach Unified is not obligated to follow HIPAA regulations, so that information will no longer be protected.
Paul, can I just ask you to lift up your mask to cover your nose, please?
Is this just for me?
It's for everyone. We've asked everyone to keep their mask on.
The school board is supposed to represent the parents and the families. There is a large number of families that are not being represented nor heard. Mask wearing should be optional. Parents are not interested in co-parenting with the school board or with the CDC. If we listen to science, why are you not listening to Fauci's early emails that stated masks are nothing more than peace of mind? For people who are worried about COVID, they should stay home or wear 2 masks for the rest of their lives. Let the rest of us get on and live ours. We don't want to use faulty PCR testing that we know if we have a cold, will come back positive for COVID. We must stop you with masks because we know what your next step will be. Testing and vaccines, and that violates the Nuremberg Code. You will be breaking the law. If you take your job seriously, then you should really consider all areas that these children could be harmed. I'm torn between keeping them home and homeschooling them or sending them to school where my 5-year-old is going to attend kindergarten for the first time and he's not going to even know what his classmates or his teachers look like underneath a mask. We know these masks don't work. We know that the tests that say we're sick don't work. Do you care only about the physical appearance, or do you care about their mental health? What is this going to do to generations down the line? You don't know. Those tests aren't being done. And for the people who are scared and paranoid or whatever, they should stay home. They should mask up. They should get the vaccine if they want it. They should test weekly if they want it. But leave me and my family alone. This is still a free country. And that's why we're here fighting, because we want to keep it that way. If you don't hear our concerns and listen to our request, you're going to be out of jobs, because we're hundreds of us just right here are willing to pull our kids out. You're going to lose over $50,000 for my 3 sons that are currently enrolled in Long Beach Unified. And if you make masks or vaccines mandatory, we're out. You're not going to get funding. And I'm not the only parent. You can hear them all. We are united. We are united. So reconsider what your job really actually is and think about who you're selling out to. You just want to be popular? You just want to go with this new agenda that's recently come about? Or do you want to really protect the kids?
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
I know this guy's about to come out. I forgot that it was live. I should have been recording the live thing. Yeah. And I could be out here.
He said it's your way or no way. I say the order allows for exemptions.
Okay, everyone, we're back. We are on public testimony on items not listed on the agenda.
My name is Jared Berrigan. I have 3 children attending Long Beach Unified Schools, and I am here to talk about the abusive, unscientific, and despicable mask mandates that you have put on our kids. I am not here to call COVID a hoax and deny that it's real. COVID is real, has caused injury to many, and severe injury and death to a portion of our population that was tragically vulnerable to it. But our kids are not among those vulnerable. The data is everywhere if you choose to find it that COVID is no more dangerous to the young than the regular seasonal flu, and maybe even less dangerous. If kids spreading the virus is what you're worried about, I got some tough news for you. Masks don't work. The mask that I'm wearing does not do anything. There is no science to back up that masks work. It's interesting that after having lived with COVID for going on 18 months now, no significant studies on children with masks and their efficacy has been financed and studied. You'd think that might be kind of important if public health was your primary concern. You don't know what you don't look for, and no one cares to look. You would think people like yourselves would question that and demand real evidence of it working before you demand our kids put on something that makes them breathe back their own carbon dioxide. COVID is a virus that is broken down into very fine particles that go right through masks like a mosquito would go through a chain link fence. It does nothing. The science community used to know this, which is probably why in February of 2020, everyone's favorite doctor, Anthony Fauci, told a friend of his through email that she didn't need a mask when she was traveling. Or again, in March, to 60 Minutes, that masks only make people feel better. It's not really providing protection. Is that what this is all about? Making people like you feel better? Aren't you supposed to be looking out for the well-being of our children, not for yourselves? Not projecting your irrational fears on them and teaching them that everyone they come into contact with is a potential killer? If potential harm to teachers is the issue, aren't vaccines now widely available? If the vaccines work so well and turn a potential serious case of COVID into a case of the sniffles for a day or two, then my kids don't need to wear masks. Period. Full stop. Any potential vulnerable teacher or staff can get vaccinated and be safe. By the way, a study of 90,000 children in classroom settings in North Carolina was conducted, and not a single case of student-to-teacher transmission was identified. Not one. Mask not working is also plainly available to see if you choose to look at the data of rates of transmission between states that had mask mandates and those that didn't. States with mask mandates had no lower rates of transmission than those with none.
Thank you, Jared. Your 3 minutes are up. Hi, Julie. You have 3 minutes to address our board.
Okay.
Please address your comments to the board chair, not to any individual member or staff.
Okay. Hi, my name is Julie Martinez, and I live in Lakewood. My sons go to Milliken and Bancroft. I'm here to discuss why you continue this charade of masking our kids when you know that masks do not work. There have been plenty of studies to show they do not work, and I've sent you all the emails showing all of you these studies, which I have received no response from you or any, including the superintendent. Our children are being hospitalized more for bacterial and or respiratory viruses like pneumonia and RSV over COVID. That's because they are breathing in their filth and spit and snot all day long with no breaks. During this pandemic, over 80 million children nationwide, that's how many children, only 335 died from COVID, and most of them had 2 or 3 comorbidities like leukemia. We all need to quit counting cases because we know the PCR test has been proven invalid and cannot distinguish between influenza or COVID. What happened to pediatric influenza, which killed more kids than COVID? More kids have died by suicide and drug overdose in this pandemic. Just alone in Clark County, Nevada, 11 high schoolers killed themselves. My own son has lost friends to suicide and drug overdose. Because the call centers nationwide have been inundated with calls through the roof from kids desperately wanting to connect with someone because you guys have robbed them of it. For what? A virus that has become so political now. For what? Because they don't want to get an experimental poison and die? The adverse reactions and deaths are through the roof right now, and you can find this on the VAERS website, which is extremely backlogged. Last count was 11,000 plus have died from this vaccine that you want to pump our kids with. Kids are dying from heart attacks and myocarditis from these experimental unconstitutional methods, which are nothing more than control. What is your purpose and your point for this? It's obviously not about the safety, emotional, mental, and social well-being of these children when you're totally violating their constitutional God-given rights, also violating the Nuremberg Code, which states the foundation of ethical medicine that no one should be coerced to participate in a medical experiment, that individuals' consent is absolutely essential. I am sure all of you have heard about that code. It was put in place after all the soldiers and all those people put all those experiments on kids back during the Holocaust. I don't need to go into that. But you still continue to use our kids as experimental pawns. What do you gain by continuing this false narrative that kids are spreading and contracting this virus? Do you get kickbacks from the government or pharmaceutical companies? All of these things, vaccines, masks, and even the PCR tests are all under EUA, are not mandatory under the Constitution. And we all know that. One of the biggest donors to the American Pediatric Association is Pfizer. Did you also know that Pfizer is the maker of the cure for the 2 most common side effects of these vaccines, myocarditis and blood clots? How funny, let's follow the money. I said, you need to end these mandates now and these forced vaccinations because the blood of our kids are on their hands. I hope you can sleep at night. May God have mercy on your souls. I'm done.
Thank you, Julie. You have 3 minutes to address us. Please address only the board chair, not any individual member of our board or staff.
Thank you. So my name's Jacqueline. I live in Long Beach and I pay taxes to the city. I graduated from Long Beach Unified. I attended all 12 years. I taught student teaching in the district, and until March of 2020, I was a substitute for your district. I really don't have a desire to work for you anymore. I have 5 younger siblings, all of whom have attended Long Beach Unified, and my youngest 3 brothers still attend. Over the last year and a half, I've watched one of my brothers struggle from anxiety and slip into a place of depression that nobody should be. His spirit has been crushed, and he's turned into a person that I don't even recognize at times. He doesn't see his friends. He doesn't go out. My other brother, last year, went through open heart surgery number 4 and 5. All he wants is to go to school. He cannot breathe while he wears a mask. He has a leaky valve. We don't know what his life holds. We don't know how much time he has left on earth. He wants to go to school. He cannot breathe when he has to be muzzled. Muzzling children is child abuse. It adds another distraction. It affects their health and their breathing. And what about children learning English? How are they supposed to see facial expressions when their teachers are covered up? Enforcing this hides smiles and crushes spirits. According to Merriam-Webster, the definition of freedom is the quality or state of being free, such as the absence of necessity, coercion, or constraint in choice or action. The last time I checked, I still live in the United States of America, but I don't see freedom. I'm not anti-anything, I'm pro-freedom. And that's what myself and all these parents are here asking today, is for the freedom to choose what they know is best for their children. Teachers are here because they are sick of having to hide their smiles from their students. It is not fair, it's child abuse, and it needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That concludes our public testimony on this agenda. I want to thank our community members that came today to provide public testimony. Part of our democracy requires participation, and our school board meetings are part of that. So thank you. We are listening, and we will move on to staff report.